Welcome to the $1 Million Career, where we show you how to plan, build, and supercharge your own $1 million career. I have with me today my returning guest host, Craig Picken. Craig is president of North Star Search Group, based in Wilmington, North Carolina, industry-leading executive search firm that Craig individually bills out well over $1 million. He is the #1 guy in aviation and aerospace. So, Craig, welcome back to the show. I'm going to talk about something interesting today. Grit. But first, before I get to that, how was the beach this weekend?
It was rainy.
What?
It was not a beach weekend in North Carolina. It was rainy.
I never even thought it rained at a beach. I thought it was like sunshine all the time.
We had a bunch of rain. We had a bunch of rain come through, but that's all right. It's a good excuse to go do other things.
So, I could just see like 1 million people scampering away as soon as it started raining down there, because the beaches are probably packed.
It never made any sense to me. You're in the water and it starts to rain. People are like, "Oh, I got to get out of the water. I got to go." Like,
exactly.
Okay,
whatever. But that's when the sharks come out, though, right? When it rains.
I don't know. I don't know when the sharks come out. I think
they migrate towards
I don't really. It's the sharks don't. The fear of sharks is not. Sharks is not my biggest fear.
It's good, man. Hey, man. So, I want to talk about grit today because I know this is one of your favorite topics, and I think you've done a blog on it. But I was just sitting around. It actually rained here too in Virginia. I saw the old movie with John Wayne, True Grit, and I started thinking about grit because he's such a gritty guy. And then I remember I read a book written by Angela Duckworth on grit.
Yeah.
And I thought it'd be a good topic for today, because there's been recent studies about grit showing it's actually more of a critical success factor in the success of people, even more so than experience and skills. So let's kick it off, man. So what are your thoughts on grit? Are you a big fan of grit?
I think grit next to intelligence is the #1 indicator of success in a person. Their ability to sort of get down in the trenches, get through tough times and keep pushing forward. It's that internal drive that makes them successful. And you talk about and here's an example I was just thinking about as you and I were the shirt sleeves to shirt sleeves company.
Yeah.
First generation starts it, second generation builds it, third generation screws it up. It's that old adage.
Yeah.
First generation gets it started, they get down in the trenches. Second generation watches their mom or dad or whoever, and they're down, they help them grow the business. And then what do? They coddle their kids. And the kids really have never had to struggle in the business. They've seen generation 1 and 2. So, that's just kind of my thought is people who can, the people who are successful in life are the people who can keep trudging forward when they're met by challenges.
Yeah. Yeah. Your daughter's a good example too. She's always struck me as a very, very, smart, scary smart person, but she's got a lot of grit too.
She's very
what
great.
She's done.
Well, she was challenged at 7 years old. She was 7.5 years old, and the doctor gives her she finds out at 7 years old she's got juvenile diabetes, and then all of a sudden her life changes. You're 7.5 years old, all of a sudden you're taking insulin shots, 8 times a day or whatever. Then all of a sudden, pumps, insulin pumps, and you got to manage your blood sugars, and you're going out and exercising, which affects your blood sugars. And, her whole life is, trying to succeed at the same, managing your blood sugars. And it's not easy.
I think a lot of people don't appreciate the work that something like that has to do to prepare for just the simplest athletic activities too.
Well, yeah, it's 2 hour. It's a two hour for her to go play tennis.
Jeez.
It's 2 hours of preparation. Man, keep me up. Most people just put on their shoes. Yeah, let's go play tennis. Now she's got to go. Hey, look, I gotta get my blood sugars right.
Yeah.
So, but she never complains.
Yeah.
It's life to her. I mean, you think about a lot of folks like that. You think about people who are, wheelchairs, or people who are, ADD or dyslexic,
Yeah.
and they've got challenges to get through in life, but they do it.
Yeah. Do you think that grit is something that we acquire? I mean, can it be acquired, or is it like inborn in you or something?
I think it's a little both.
Yeah.
What do you think?
I mean, I look back to my son. He's always been just a gritty guy. I tend to think you're kind of born with it, but I think environmentally, if you're in the right environment, it just really brings it out. Like, he's always been a gritty kid ever since he was young. But I remember in his sports career, playing high school football and leading his team to a state championship, that was just a gritty performance. Coming back, and they played against the number 2 team in the whole country. Percy Harvin was on that team, who's probably going to be in the NFL Hall of Fame. And then I think that when he went to selection for Special Forces, I remember he was on the bus. I'll never forget it. He's on the bus. He told me this afterwards. He goes, after airborne training, we had to get on this bus to drive all the way to North Carolina to go to Fort McCall, which is where U.S. Army Special Forces training, SFAS, takes place. And he says, I'm looking on the bus and all these big dudes that were obviously gym rats, guys from mostly urban areas, and they were big and strong and muscles, and they were talking up like they were going to whip this program. They're going to go right through, And he said it was amazing that the guys who made it through the selection process, which was only 6 people out of 105, none of these guys were the gym rats. None of these guys were the workout guys. It was all people from mostly the southern part of the United States, from small towns, grew up on farms, just really gritty people who had trouble growing up, and they just had to overcome all types of obstacles. And he said that is really what grit is, and those are the guys that made it.
I think to answer your question, is grit innate or is it learned?
Yeah.
I think it's a little of both.
Yeah, I think so.
And I'll tell you, and I'll use me as an example. I was not a gritty kid. I was a very mediocre student. If I got frustrated, which I did often, I would just, put it in the too hard category and move on to something else. And I was all over the place. Right. And, I think where I found grit was when I went to officer candidate school. And I think that's kind of where it really dawned on me, where, your first 3 hours, they shave your head, make you pay $3 for the privilege, and I think I was a week into it. And the Marine Corps drill instructor was, he wanted everybody to quit who wasn't going to make it through. And they pushed you to quit. And it was my turn in the barrel to be pushed to quit.
Yep.
And I looked at him, I'm like, I'm not quitting. I think that's where I found grit. It's like, no, I'm not quitting, because I'm not going home with a really bad haircut to look my dad in the face and say, I quit.
Yeah.
And now I don't quit. I don't quit. Yeah. I never quit.
Exactly right.
Yes,
exactly.
Yeah. Starting a business, you're an entrepreneur. How scary starting a business is. It's easy to quit, and it's easy to quit and say, I'm going to go back and work for the man.
Yeah.
Right. Get a steady paycheck, get a steady paycheck and whatever else.
There is no option for failure.
No.
Failure is not an option.
No.
I think, I went through a similar selection process in another area. And I remember telling myself, I'm only coming out of this place two different ways. One, I pass selection, or number two, I'm coming out in a coffin.
Mhm.
That those are the only two options.
Mhm.
And I think the other thing about, and you tell me what you think about this. So I've always equated having grit as essential for having the capacity to practice. In other words, if you look at your background, if you didn't have grit, you could have never sustained yourself through OCS and then naval flight training, and even in a business now. I mean, if you're not gritty, you don't have that capacity, I don't think, to continually practice, because practice in many cases is boring stuff.
I think
And
what
if you don't have grit,
well, look, like you said, so so people are listening to this and they're like, okay, what's grit? What are we doing? And I think it's, look, one, it's, you're not alone. If you make the determination that you're going to get through something, you're challenged in your career, you're challenged in your home life, your kids are, giving you some, it's life, right?
Yeah.
And it's, grit is, getting down in and going, all right, I'm going to figure this out. And it's going to figure out where the resources are to help you.
yeah,
You're not alone on people are like, well, if I got, I got to be alone on an island. You're like, no, you don't.
yeah,
You got to use your network. You got to use your friends, or if you're struggling, find somebody who can help you.
yeah.
You know,
Yeah. The other thing is, I tell my clients that grit trumps talent and talent trumps experience.
Mhm.
And the reason why I think grit is important for business owners, such as my clients, is because gritty people seem to have a sense of greater purpose. I call them strivers,
Yep.
as opposed to naturals. In other words, you've got the naturals, right? The natural talent, natural abilities. Then you have the strivers who have all that, but they're always striving for a greater purpose.
Right.
And that's where I think grit really comes in and manifests itself, as you have a striver instead of a natural.
The gritty
That is a
people,
very powerful thing in a company.
the gritty people are the ones who are not satisfied.
Right.
I'm not happy with where I am today. I would like to be a little bit better tomorrow. Tomorrow I will not be satisfied. I want a little bit more. And the whole thing about Angela Duckworth, that whole book about grit, it was like, it all started with West Point. And you have,
Yes.
400 very talented, kids, 18-year-old kids going to West Point, and 100 of them drop out. And it's like, why did they go
Yeah.
to all this length to get into West Point only to drop out? And you're like, why do you quit?
Yeah,
And
exactly.
and I think so, for all intents for this podcast, it's, once again, look, it's okay to call it, when you say I'm going to quit, it's like, I'm not happy with my job. Okay, well, why are you not happy with your job? Why are you not happy with your boss? Maybe you're pigeonholed. Maybe, okay, go find something else. Don't quit your career. Go find a greener pasture, right?
Right. Exactly.
It's find a direction.
Yeah.
I'm going to head north. I'm going to go 360 on the compass.
Yeah, exactly.
It's okay to veer to 010 or 350, go a little bit left of course, but in general, you're heading a direction.
Yeah, exactly.
It's when you start to say, I'm going to go east. No. Now I'm going to go west. No. I don't like that either. And then you get all over the place that you find yourself in trouble and frustrated.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm just thinking about the book now. It's a great book for anybody who's watching or listening out there. Grit by Angela Duckworth. So the other thing she says is gritty people tend to have more hope. In other words, they tend to focus on only things that they can control.
Yep.
And you look at your favorite athlete, probably Patrick Mahomes, right? Mm-hmm. What does he always say? I'm focused on what I can control. That's a gritty dude, man.
I've been reading some social media, like LinkedIn. The downside of my job, the one thing about my job that I really hate is I have to be on LinkedIn a lot.
Yeah.
And you see the vitriol that people are writing on it. And at the end of the day, it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter. You can't, you as a third party can't control what I think. You can't control what I say. You can't control what I do. What you can control is how you react to it.
Exactly. Yeah.
So you put yourself in a tense situation. You can't control me, but you can control you.
Yeah.
And that's what I think grit is like, I will control how I react to a situation.
Yeah. Yeah. Gritty people tend to be just irrepressible people, and that's a quality that's difficult to find now.
Oh, I think it's one of those things where there's more. I think the irrepressible people are the silent majority. They
You're
don't
probably
make
right. You have a good point there.
They don't make a big deal of it. They're not out there going, look at me, look at me, look at me. I'm irrepressible. They just do their stuff.
They just do their job.
They just do their stuff. The people that I find are the most vocal in life, the quote unquote, the activists, are the ones who haven't done squat in their lives. And they're going to make the world better for everybody else. Well, why don't you fix yourself before you try to fix everybody else, right? That's.
Yeah, I think the activists are just people that want to be in charge without doing the work. That's all. If you really think about it.
I think they make a lot of noise. I think they're like the geese that hang out in my backyard. They make a lot of noise. They shit all over the yard, excuse my language.
Right.
And
somebody else has to clean it up.
And then somebody else has to go clean up their mess.
Yeah.
That's what my dogs are for. The dogs are out there chasing the geese all the time, and the dogs are the ones that, they're just like,
Yeah.
But I think that's what it comes down to, is the gritty people are the ones who, the gritty people. And in a career, this is what people want to see in their teams. They want to see people who can work through hard challenges without giving up.
Yeah.
They want to see people who want to make things a little bit better, in that we see where we are today. Let's see where we can take this tomorrow. And they're on a continual path.
Yeah.
And it's a continual, steady path.
Yeah. No, that's good. No,
They don't quit. They just don't give up.
Yeah. Yeah. There's probably more people out there than we think. And I think, the obvious analogies are military aviation, special operations, professional sports. That's the reason why I love professional sports. I was watching Djokovic play in Wimbledon yesterday.
Mm-hmm.
You talk about a guy with grit, man.
Yeah, man.
He comes out, he loses the first set, and you're thinking, he's getting older. I think he's 31, 32. Hasn't played a lot because he doesn't have the vaccine. He's in Wimbledon. This young buck is just like killing him. I think that the young guy, I can't remember his name. He's a Greek guy, I think, had 30 aces over Djokovic. And you're thinking Djokovic could go down here. And what happens? Djokovic wins the next 3 sets.
Yeah.
Didn't even break a sweat. Didn't really complain. There was no complaining. There was no hijinks. No pizzazz, he just was a workman. And the guy, he just has grit. You can just see the guy is so gritty, man. I'm telling you, I'd love to go to battle with that guy because he does not have quit in him.
I'll tell you some of the grittiest people I've ever met. Single mothers.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
You take a single mom who just wants to, she wakes up on Monday morning, gets her kids to school, goes to work, comes home, they just get it done.
Yeah.
And you're cheering them. And that's grit.
I'll tell you my single mom story. So, and this will be it for us today, but I placed somebody last week. She was down in Southern Virginia, small town, making $45,000. Single mom. She worked in the same insurance agency for 18 years out of high school. Man, I was so mad talking to this woman about how this business owner was taking advantage of her.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, $45,000. They're hiring people in the insurance industry out of college for like 60K. You know, this lady's 18 years working her ass off.
Mm-hmm.
Single mom. I get her the position, 75K, $2,500 signing bonus. I'm talking with her in her car, announcing this verbal offer. And I said, so what are you going to do with all this money now? And I didn't know it, but her daughter, 9-year-old daughter, was in the back seat. And just out of nowhere, she says, we're going to Disney World. I've always wanted to go to Disney World. I'm thinking to myself, and I just changed the lives of these people.
You changed a life.
You changed the whole dynamic. All of a sudden, she has money now.
Mm-hmm.
She can get out of debt. She can buy that car. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
it's just, and she's a single mom. And most of the women that I place are single moms.
Yep.
It's great.
I
love it.
That's grit. Yeah,
that's grit, man. This
That's
lady
grit,
was
man.
just grit, man. I'm telling you, just toughing it out, man. You know.
Yeah,
Anyways.
but that's what you got to tell that's what you tell your customers. Go find people with grit.
Yeah.
They have a direction. They're willing to stick with it. They're not going to quit. They'll get it done. They'll get through the challenges.
Exactly. Hey, Craig, how do people get a hold of you anyways?
910-231-4037 is my cell phone. Craig at northstaresg.com is my email, and I'm on LinkedIn. So just look me up, Craig Picken.
You're all over LinkedIn, man. I love listening to your podcast. You have some great guests on there, you know, captains of business. You do some great work on blogs, man. People should definitely check you out, man.
Anytime. Come on.
All right, man. And people know how to get a hold of me. Rob at mrfairfax.com. I'm all over the internet too, unfortunately, I guess.
Privacy is gone.
Thanks, Craig. I appreciate it, brother. I'll see you next week. We'll do it again. And
Sounds like a plan.
Take care of yourself and get back in that ocean, man.
Talk soon. Thanks,
All right,
Rob.
man. See ya.
Bye.